Coming up on this edition of Reel to Reel.
I'm Kathy Harrington. I'll have the story of the Cheshire Food Pantry, meeting the needs of the community.
I'm Steve Kiltonick at Amherst, where St. Bridget Parish recently celebrated the 100-year anniversary of the dedication of its church.
And we continue our series following along with the Catholic Communications Jubilee Year Pilgrimage to Italy. These stories and more are just ahead on Reel to Reel. Hello and welcome to Reel to Reel as we come to you today from St. Bridget's Church in Amherst. This church is an iconic landmark in the Italianate style, known for its stained glass windows and Renaissance-inspired architecture. This beautiful church is the second house of worship for this parish. This building was completed in 1925, celebrating its 100th anniversary this year. Steve Kiltonick has been covering all of the celebrations for this centennial event, and we will hear more from him coming up. But first, for parishioners of St. Mary of the Assumption Parish in Cheshire, dropping off a can of vegetables or tuna or a box of cereal to the parish hall on the way to Mass is just routine, one of the many ways they support the Cheshire Food Pantry. Created 6 years ago to help meet the growing needs of the food insecure, a small army of volunteers works together to make distribution a friendly experience where everyone knows their neighbors. Kathy Harrington has more.
It's the first Saturday of the month, and the Cheshire Food Pantry is open for business.
All we do is require be a Cheshire resident.
Carol Francisconi and volunteers function like a pit crew at the Indy 500.
14!
The food pantry is located in the former Cheshire School. Customers drive up, and the team loads the vehicle with a bag of groceries and paper products. Distribution day runs smoothly because the volunteers spent weeks preparing.
I'll start shopping tomorrow for next month. We try to do breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
While Francisconi does the shopping, volunteer Julie Desbensky heads to the Western Mass Food Bank.
She goes and picks up the vegetables that they have left over because we're not technically a member of the Western Mass Food Bank, but whatever is left over they do give us.
Desbensky, a parishioner of St. Mary of the Assumption, has watched the food pantry expand.
I see that, word of mouth, it spreads quickly. And people are happy to have a place here in town that they can pick up.
Started in 2019, the pantry has grown from 10 families to more than 100. Of the 344 cities and towns in Massachusetts, Cheshire ranks 271st with a population of 3,183, but nearly 13% of the residents receive SNAP benefits.
In the last 2 years, we've had major increases, and I think it's the economy that people either aren't working or the prices of food have gone so high that they just need the help. Mm-hmm. And Cheshire is an elderly population too. Most of our clients are middle to older adults that really need the help.
That's where volunteer Dale Ballawinder comes in. From day one, she's the volunteer making home deliveries. Sometimes 10 or 11, but today she'll make 5 stops, checking on people to see how they're doing.
People are so happy to see you, for one, to encounter somebody from, local that they know, and they're just so happy to get the groceries.
Distribution is done for the day, and now the food pantry shelves are basically bare. But thanks to the parishioners of St. Mary of the Assumption Church and other churches here in Cheshire, as well as some generous donors, the shelves will be restocked in time for next month. In the meantime, food pantry volunteers are quick to respond to all urgent requests for assistance received by the church. In Cheshire, I'm Kathy Harrington for Reel to Reel.
And Kathy tells us the parish is accepting monetary donations. This year, proceeds from St. Mary's annual Christmas Bazaar on Saturday, December 6th will also benefit the pantry. The Diocese of Springfield is joining a national effort to inspire future priests through a new Called by Name initiative. a program encouraging parishioners to help recognize those who may be called to serve in the priesthood and to start conversations about faith, vocations, and community leadership. Nick Morganelli has more.
Father David O'Farrell, Vocations Recruiting Director for the diocese and pastor of St. Patrick's Parish in South Hadley, shared the urgency of asking parishioners to identify potential future seminarians and priests.
Sometimes we don't see ourselves in the way that maybe God sees us and the way other people see us. So it's important to just kind of ask that question, to plant that seed, and to just simply pray for that person and watch it grow.
So what sort of young men are we looking for? We asked Bishop William Byrne.
Characteristics I look for when I interview a candidate for the seminary is, would he be a good dad? Would he be a good husband? We want good men, men after the heart of Christ, but who will also be fathers in the church.
Whether it's participating at Mass or in another ministry, the church is always looking for young people with a heart for servant leadership. Gianna Percy has had a heart for the youngest parishioners at St. Patrick's.
I've been teaching since 8th grade, and I teach with my brother Dominic too. And we teach kindergarten and preschool, and we look to help the kids learn about their prayers and learn more about their faith.
And what if one of her students had eyes on the priesthood?
It's well needed now, since we heard at Mass that they're losing or they need more. But it would be amazing in that I taught them, so that would be really nice if they move on to be a priest.
Her brother Dominic brings his encouragement to another classroom for fellow students at Pope Francis Prep.
Especially as an upperclassman at Pope Francis, you can especially encourage some of the younger classmen, especially those that are new to the community. You can definitely encourage them to get involved in the community and especially grow in their faith.
The value of that encouragement began with a simple question for Father David when he was 15 years old.
The priest who first got me thinking about becoming a priest, his name was Father Michael Garino. He was someone who lived in our neighborhood. He smoked a cigar. He rode a jet ski. He was just a regular guy.
And regular guys become priests to fill the vacancies at churches throughout our diocese.
Priests play an important and irreplaceable role in providing the sacraments, preaching the gospel, and shepherding the faith people.
But discernment precedes shepherding a flock, whether it's a bolt or a steady light.
From my personal experience, it was a gradual progression towards serving at the altar. And more often than not, it's a continual process that just gradually helps a young man discern and to go forward. For me, that lightning bolt was when my priest from Revere asked me if I ever thought about becoming a priest. And so that was my first lightning bolt, and that question always went back to it and it never left.
That same spirit of invitation was shared recently at St. Mary's High School in Westfield, where Bishop Byrne and diocesan priests joined students for a special prayer luncheon.
In the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord, we ask you to open our minds and hearts to your Spirit. Help all of us to be open and ever discerning of your will for our lives.
The goal? To encourage students and staff to pray for vocations and for those who may be called by name.
Is really grassroots. The whole intention is, let's ask the people in the pews what they think, who they think would be, because the Holy Spirit doesn't just talk to me, it talks to the whole church and to those in the pews. And this program has borne much fruit across the country. And so I am confident that our generous God will provide us shepherds after his own heart.
Other than sharing names of potential future seminarians and priests, there's one thing we can all do to help.
Pray for vocations and pray for this Call by Name initiative. It's very important, and we look forward to see what comes back to us.
Praying as a community
in the discernment of a vocation.
And hoping for more men to answer the call to serve. For Real to Real, I'm Nick Morganelli.
If this story made you think of someone who might be a good priest, don't wait. Contact your parish priest. You may help a young man take that first step toward answering the call. And still to come on Real to Real, Steve Kiltonic tells us about this magnificent church, which has been a spiritual presence in the greater Amherst community for a century. And we continue our series highlighting the July Catholic Communications Jubilee Year pilgrimage to Italy. This week we arrive in Rome, traveling through the first of 4 holy doors. It's all still ahead on Reel to Reel. We here at Catholic Communications extend our sincere condolences to Bishop William Byrne and his family on the passing of their mother, Mary Byrne, on November 12th at the remarkable age of 102. In a brief statement, Bishop Byrne wrote, "My mother was a loving and faith-filled woman who spent her life caring not just for her family, but was also active in service to others. In her younger years, she would go weekly to the poorest neighborhood in Washington, D.C. to serve meals to the homeless. She had a great sense of humor and treated every person she met with dignity. Mom was a wonderful example of living our Catholic faith with joy. My brothers and sisters were truly blessed to have her as our mother." Funeral services for Mary Byrne will be November 21st at St. Luke Church in McLean, Virginia. On December 12th at 11 a.m. at St. Michael's Cathedral, Bishop Byrne will offer a Month's Mind Mass for his mother. All are cordially invited to attend. Mary Byrne's obituary can be found at iobserve.org.
Like Catholic TV on Facebook. Once you're there, you can join in on discussions, make friends with other Catholic TV fans, watch behind-the-scenes videos from the studio,
just finished this today,
and stay up to date with the Catholic world. All this at facebook.com/CatholicTV.
You are watching Reel to Reel, your window on the world around you. Here again is your Reel to Reel host, Sharon Ruliger.
Back in July, Father Gary Daly, the rector of St. Michael's Cathedral, led an 11-day pilgrimage to Italy, visiting historical and holy sites. In this Jubilee year, there are 4 holy doors in the city of Rome that are open to the public. In part 3 of our series this week, the pilgrims arrive in Rome, visit ancient catacombs, and enter their first holy door into St. Peter's Basilica at the Vatican, followed by a Mass under the main altar in a Polish chapel with ties to Western Massachusetts.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
We arrive for the final leg of our pilgrimage into the eternal city, Roma. This is the climax of our Jubilee pilgrimage, where our pilgrims will have the opportunity to walk through the 4 holy doors of Rome. Our first stop as we come into Rome is the catacombs of St. Calixtus. They originated around the middle of the 2nd century and occupy about 90 acres, with a network of burial tombs that stretch for nearly 12 miles in 4 levels, more than 65 feet deep. In these catacombs were buried tens of martyrs, 9 popes, and Saint Cecilia, the patron saint of music. We have the privilege of celebrating Mass here, much like they did in the early centuries, surrounded then by mortal remains, but now empty tombs that remind us of our mortality. we spend our first night in a beautiful hotel of Michelangelo in Rome. Our first morning in Rome, we visit St. Peter's Basilica. St. Peter's history began in the 4th century when Emperor Constantine decided to build a basilica where St. Peter had been buried. In the year 329, the construction of the basilica was completed. In 1506, Pope Julius II begins the construction of a new basilica, replacing the existing one, which was completed in the year 1633. St. Peter's Basilica is one of the largest buildings in the world. It is the largest of the papal basilicas, measuring a little more than 715 feet in length and 446 feet high. Over 90 popes are buried in St. Peter's Basilica. In the early hours, we enter our first holy door very quietly into the basilica with no large crowds. We proceed down the windy stairs to where the popes are buried and celebrate Mass in the Polish chapel dedicated to Our Lady of Częstochowa. This chapel was built with the generous gift of Father Alfonso Skoniecki and the parishioners of then Saints Peter and Paul, now Divine Mercy Parish in Three Rivers, Massachusetts. The donation was made on the occasion of Father Skoniecki's 40th anniversary of priesthood. There is a small marble plaque acknowledging this at the entrance of the chapel. Cardinal Wojtyła, later Pope John Paul II, celebrated Mass here many times and prayed in thanksgiving in October of 1978 after his election to the papacy. After Mass, the pilgrims have the rare opportunity of having the basilica nearly to themselves, to look around and pray before the tombs of St. John Paul II and St. John the 23rd. In the afternoon, we tour the Vatican museums and the Sistine Chapel. Just 2 months earlier, His Eminence Robert Cardinal Provost was elected to the chair of St. Peter and emerged from this chapel as Pope Leo XIV. After dinner, we take advantage of the beautiful Roman summer evening. Only a 5-minute walk from our hotel to the Vatican, the pilgrims are able to take in the breathtaking sights of the Vatican at night. The next morning begins with Mass at the Church of St. Peter in Chains. This church was built in the 5th century to house the chains with which St. Peter was imprisoned in Jerusalem. According to tradition, Empress Eudoxia gave Pope Leo I as a present the chains with which St. Peter had been shackled in Jerusalem prison. In order to preserve this relic, he commissioned this basilica to be built. The chains remain under the altar in a reliquary. This church is very different from any other church built during the same period due to its simplicity and scarce decoration. Another impressive part of the church is the mausoleum of Pope Julius II, made up of Michelangelo's striking statue of Moses, designed between 1505 and 1515. After Mass, we begin our walking tour to visit the sites of ancient and Christian Rome.
And join us next week as the pilgrims continue with their walking tour of the ancient city and experience the blessings of walking through 2 more holy doors at the basilicas of St. John Lateran and St. Mary Major. And now here at St. Bridget's Church in Amherst, parishioners held a week-long series of events earlier this fall to commemorate the 100th year of this beautiful house of worship. Steve Kiltonic reports now on this centennial milestone, which includes a name change, a statue resurrected from the deep, and the addition of some beloved lost paintings that came to mark this very special year.
On September 27th, a Mass was held at St. Bridget's in commemoration of the church's dedication a century ago. Springfield Bishop William Byrne concelebrated the Mass with the parish's pastor, Father Valentine Nawara, the former pastor, Father Gary Daly, Father Henry Dorsch, and Father Kevin Ewagigwe.
For 100 years, this sacred house of God has stood as a beacon of faith, hope, and love in our community.
The Mass was the culmination of the parish's 9-day series of events held in celebration of the 100-year anniversary. It started September 19th when parishioners viewed the St. Carlo Acutis Eucharistic Miracles exhibition in the Monsignor Lane Pastoral Center. It continued with a concert featuring the diocesan singing priests and a second concert which dedicated the church's new organ. Originally named St. Bridget after the Swedish saint, the parish began in 1871 with the construction of the first church on Pleasant Street. After 50 years, the parish outgrew the old wooden church, and in 1919, Springfield Bishop Thomas O'Leary purchased 2 lots on North Pleasant Street and Cowles Lane for the site of the new church. The cornerstone was laid in 1923, and 2 years later, when the new church opened, it received a new name.
They decided to change the name to Bridget of Kildare from Ireland. And most likely that was because the largest part of the congregation was Irish themselves.
The dedication took place on September 27, 1925, by Bishop O'Leary, whose coat of arms is directly above the church's main entrance doors. Designed by renowned diocesan architect John Donahue of Springfield, St. Bridget was modeled on an architectural style pioneered during the Italian Renaissance. The interior is spectacular, dominated by 22 stained glass windows which surround the church, created by Franz Meyer of Germany. 11 large windows depict, in chronological order, important events from the lives of Jesus and Mary.
It's just such outstanding level of attention to detail on the windows in every aspect. Little flowers on the greenery that's in front of Jesus when he's talking to the children.
In 1992, the Flight to Egypt window was made into a commemorative Christmas plate by the U.S. Historical Society. Behind the new organ is a large circular rose window, a characteristic of the Gothic revival of the 19th century. The painting of the crucifixion behind the altar is original to the church. On either side of the altar are 2 marble statues. One is Joseph holding the baby Jesus.
The statue of Mary was actually originally meant for a church in Boston. It was sent over from Italy to Boston on a ship that sank near Bermuda, but they were able to rescue her from the depths and bring her up.
In the old baptismal shrine area is the Immaculate Conception of Mary's statue of painted wood, created by a Spanish sculptor. The statue was exhibited during the 1915 Panama Pacific International Exposition in San Francisco. Early in the centenary planning stages, Father Valentine discovered that the 7 sacrament paintings over the chancel arch were lost, painted over during renovations in 1993.
To see how beautiful it was when it was still there in 1925, and that inspired me to think and discuss with the committee and to figure out how we could bring it back, restore it.
Jeremiah Patterson, a former parishioner and artist, was commissioned to paint 7 new sacrament paintings.
He remembered when they were up there as an altar server when he was a little boy, and that made it really, really easier for him to repaint them, and we put them back up there.
During the Mass, a ceremony was held as Bishop Byrne blessed and dedicated the paintings for the congregation. Father Valentine, whose aunt designed the anniversary logo, believes it's important to have a church filled with sacred art and sacred images.
They are all created and made to inspire, to teach.
Planning for the anniversary began last January for the week leading up to the Mass, when various events were held to commemorate the dedication. First was the St. Cardinal Acutis Eucharistic Miracles exhibit. Several first-class relics of the saint were on display. The night before the Mass, the singing priests with Father Valentine came to town for the first time, led by Father Francis Riley. The group kept the audience entertained with a variety of songs, including sacred ballads.
Then sings my soul, my Savior God to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art.
As well as classic tunes from the 1960s.
Help me get my feet back on the ground. Won't you please help me?
Father Valentine incorporated his own heritage with a famous liturgical hymn from Nigeria.
I rejoiced when I heard them say, "Let us go into the Lord's house," drawing from the psalm. Majority of them didn't understand what we sang, but I could see the joy, the happiness, written all over them.
After the Mass, at the reception, lots of St. Bridget swag was available, including a comprehensive church anniversary book written by Rath. The celebration concluded the day after Mass when a centenary concert was held to dedicate the new organ. Parish organist Klaus Becker played various classical selections. With the anniversary finally over, Father Valentine is relieved that he can get back to business as usual.
Thank God, because in the next 100 years I will no longer be here. But I thank God that now we are done. We've celebrated this and we look forward to the future with hope and joy.
Father Valentine and parishioners now embark on a new journey together, opening the first chapter of the church's next centennial. For Real to Real, I'm Steve Kiltonic.
Congratulations to all here at St. Bridget's. It is such a beautiful church with such a rich heritage. And finally, in honor of Veterans Day this week, we bring you the story of a soon-to-be 75-year-old Marine who recently ran his 7th Marine Corps Marathon. Carolee McGrath has this inspiring story now of Kevin Davis from St. Cecilia's Parish in Wilbraham.
U.S. Marine Corps retired Major Kevin Davis is a longtime parishioner at St. Cecilia Parish in Wilbraham. The husband, father, and grandfather served 40 years in the Marine Corps.
The Marine Corps is central to my life, one of my central tenets, my family, God, country, and Corps.
With just a few weeks before his 75th birthday, the Major, as his friends call him, decided he would show everyone what Marines of any age are made of. On Sunday, October 26th, he completed his 7th Marine Corps Marathon in Washington, D.C.
It was a beast. It was my 7th and final. I'd been promised by my wife and family and friends that I wouldn't run anymore, but this one was really special.
This was the 50th running of the Marine Corps Marathon and the 250th birthday of the Marine Corps. Davis, a Eucharistic minister and member of the Knights of Columbus at St. Cecilia's Council 10195, trained for months.
That is really the moment when you stand in line in front of a second lieutenant and you put your medal on you, and then you stand in front of the Iwo Jima Memorial and have your picture taken. That's a culmination of months of training, and just a lot of hard work.
Longtime friend and former neighbor Brian Bowler made the trip to Washington with him. Bowler also ran, finishing his 6th Marine Corps Marathon under 4 hours, an impressive time. He is also a member of St. Cecilia's.
Running the Marine Corps Marathon is probably the most inspiring and humbling experience of my life, because you have all of these young Marines that are there at every water stop along the way, giving you water, cheering you on, giving you high fives, thanking you for running, while all the while we should be thanking them for everything they've signed up for.
St. Cecilia Parish had a 3rd runner complete the marathon this year. It was Todd Lazowski's first marathon, and he also finished under 4 hours. Todd and Kevin met just a few weeks before the race at a Knights of Columbus meeting.
I think it was a fellow Knight that introduced us during our meeting before the event, and then we were talking. I'm like, wow, this guy's been doing it for a while, and so it was kind of cool to connect in that way, not having an idea beforehand, but making that connection before the event, so that was nice.
All 3 men agreed that prayer was a major factor in crossing that finish line. Reporting for Real to Real, I'm Carolee McGrath.
What an accomplishment. Congratulations to Kevin Davis. And thank you to all who served and who still continue to serve. And a happy birthday to the U.S. Marine Corps. Our diocese is very blessed to have 2 veteran Marines, Father John Connors and Father John Williams. And that's our program for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to follow all of the latest news of the Catholic Church, both here in the Diocese of Springfield and around the world, on our news and information website, iobserve.org. There you will find articles prepared by our Catholic Communications reporting team and our partners at Our Sunday Visitor. That's iobserve.org. And we'll be back next week at this same time for another edition of Real to Real, your window on the world around you. See you then.
Real to Real is a production of the Catholic Communications Corporation, funded in part by the annual Catholic Appeal, and the support of you, our faithful viewers.